top of my
If
forehead.
you just go to any old Google Doc and open the add-ons feature and then search for Vex tab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just give you a heads up, this isn't the seminar on Vex tab. No. That's just one small part of what we're doing. So people don't go, oh, I might be on the wrong thing. No.
Just need it for an exercise, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to get started because we've got about 6 hours of material to cover in the next 55 minutes. So this is Andrew Harnett, and he's a teacher at HKIS. He teaches 3rd grade, 90% geek, and this week 10% caffeine.
Yeah. Suffer punching through it. Mandy Hollingshead, she's a music/tech teacher at ISF here in Hong Kong. Today's session is on finding the balance between tech and traditional learning in the 21st century classroom. So we've taken a step back from thrusting tools at you and looking at it from a slightly different perspective. But we're going to start it with...
You know, once in a while, something comes along that changes the way we live. A device so simple and intuitive, using it feels almost familiar. Introducing the 2015 IKEA catalog. It's not a digital book or an e-book. It's a book. The first thing to note is no cables, not even a power cable. The 2015 IKEA catalog comes fully charged and the battery life is eternal. The interface is 7.5 by 8 inches, but can expand to 15 by 8 inches. The navigation is based on tactile touch technology that you can actually feel. Content comes pre-installed via 328 high-definition pages of inspiring home furnishing ideas. To start browsing, simply touch and drag. Right to left to move forwards. Left to right to move backwards. Notice something else? That's right, no lag. Each crystal clear page loads instantaneously, no matter how fast you scroll. If you want to get a quick overview, just hold it in the palm of your hand and using just your thumb, speed browse the content. If you find something you want to save for later, you can simply bookmark it. And even if you close the application, you can easily find the bookmark again. Amazing. What about multiple users? For that, we've introduced a simple color coding system to avoid confusion. If you want to share a particularly inspiring item, you literally share it. Another special feature is password protection, which is voice activated. Excuse me, that's mine. At IKEA, we feel that technology this life enhancing should be in the hands of everyone. So the 2015 IKEA catalog is free. You can download one from your mailbox, the one you open with a key. If it's not there, try refresh the next day. Or you can upload yourself to the IKEA store and find one there. Experience the power of a book.
That's us.
Yeah, I love that. That's one of the most brilliant ads I've seen in a long time. So we want to start with that forming the basis for who our learners are. Now, we've heard a lot about this in the past little while. Our focus, my lens is through primary elementary. The stuff we hear today isn't only primarily elementary. They're a digital generation. They have shorter attention spans. They're incredibly capable, but they are ego, otherwise known as desire-driven, and they demand instant gratification from everything around them because that's what's been put at them. We're going to show you a little video that kind of puts a little bit of perspective on who our learners are and kind of where the world is going. Now, the real video is about 7.5 minutes long. We only have an hour, so we're not going to drain 7.5 minutes of time on this, but we will show you a short version of this.
There has never been a bigger force for change than technology. It changes absolutely everything about the way we live, the way we get around, the way we eat, even the way we talk to each other.
you about some of the research that we've done over the last few months that goes into digital learning. And we're going to go in a little bit on how you can evaluate some of the tech that you are being asked to use or you do use in your classrooms. Okay, and we're going to look at how you can design your tasks and have your tech at the same time. It's a lot to fit in.
Yeah, so we're going to try our best. All right. So, little quote. Technology should be at the point of instruction and be as accessible in learning as a pencil. It shouldn't be an event. How many pencil labs do you have in your school? Further to that, how many times do you have to go book a pencil cart?
Actually, these days,
What the research has shown thus far, there's a few factors that we looked into a little bit in particular because we had a bunch of people might go, but this and this and this. Socioeconomic status, age ranges, sex, male versus female, and then various nationalities. Start with the nationalities. We tried to make this as international as possible. Obviously, as with most research, it's very, United Kingdom / North American based. So a lot of the research was found there. However, we did find stuff from Hong Kong. We did find stuff from China and from Indonesia as well. Male, female, mostly lay the same, except for the obvious differences that we all know, which we hate to admit, which is a lot of the research shows that boys do better at math than girls the vast majority of the time. Age ranges well over the board. As low as pre-K, as high as high school. And there were a couple of college studies in there that we factored in a little bit, but we didn't focus a lot on that because most of us are not in that range. And socioeconomic status wasn't a factor for a lot of it. In other words, we weren't just looking at suburban areas. We weren't just looking at the nuclear families. We were looking at lower SES areas as well. So we can show some of the research that was regarding that stuff.
we went in with a set of expectations, as you normally do when you start researching something. And we figured that we were going to find a whole lot of stuff that said all tech all the time and not much that said differently. But actually, that's not what we found. What we found, and most of the studies that we were reading, actually, for those who are familiar with the Samer ladder, is all at the substitution or augmentation line. So that's generally what people are studying. And when you're doing it at that end, what they were finding was sometimes there's gains, sometimes there's not. Depends on the subject, depends on the gender.
Yeah.
Okay, but overall, they were saying, it's kind of a mixed bag.
And a lot of it had to do with engagement. Both engagement on the children's end as well as engagement on the teacher's end too. If a teacher has bought into technology, things get better. If a teacher looks very openly frustrated about it, the kids won't want to use it. They'll get frustrated about it. Just like reading. If you've got a teacher who's engaged in reading and genuinely loves reading, the kids are going to want to read more. That is no different from any of the other core subject areas. Scoring on testing. Like we said, a lot of it was substitution when you found the research. It wasn't a lot on the redefinition and modification stages, which was interesting to us because a lot of the research sometimes showed virtually no change in results when you added in technology. And the EdTech Quintet was something that, if you haven't been to Dr. Quintadera's presentations, is a way of kind of categorizing the technology. And a lot of it was more based on gaming-based technology, the drill and kill math stuff. There was some social contact, there was some visualization, but the vast majority of it lay in the gaming research.
One of the things that came up over and over in the studies was that the students were not feeling engaged. So part of that is because the stuff that they do at home or on the bus or outside of their classroom had nothing to do with what they were doing in their classroom. Part of that would also come down to teachers' attitude. If it was like, oh, I've got to use those iPads again. Then the kids were, they weren't wanting to do it either. Engagement of the teacher, engagement of the student, direct correlation to increase in results. Even if it was just a direct substitution. Even if it was just a drill and kill app that they were using. If the teacher was on board with it, then the student would automatically become more engaged and their score would go up.
Now, sometimes not much, but it did go up a tiny, tiny bit.
Yeah.
Talking about standard deviations, sometimes it was just barely noticeable.
The teachers don't need to be experts. And I know that sometimes we get that feeling like, you should be using tech, you should be using these apps, and it's kind of like, well, I don't know, so I don't even want to try. You don't need to be the expert. The kids don't expect you to be the expert. What they need is for you to be open-minded. So it's kind of one of those like, I'm willing to go out there, I'm willing to try it, I'm willing to fail spectacularly when the network goes down or the app crashes or whatever. It's how you deal with it. If you can be open-minded about it. Okay? They also want to have stuff that is more relevant to their lives. Now, we don't really want essays turned in that look like this. For those that can't see the fine print down at the bottom, the suggested translation is, for your information, I am not a lawyer, but are these terms of service? You need more research and development. Okay, going for coffee.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My grade threes have tried to pull off LOL on a bunch of their essays, their personal narratives. They tried to throw in some LOLs and stuff. And I kind of had to reassure them, yes, this is wonderful on your phones. But if you're going to say laugh out loud, I'd actually like you to write out the words laugh out loud. It gives them the benefit of the doubt, of course. Digital literacy is a very important point. And it even started back in, I'm going to date myself, but not too badly. When the original Nintendo Entertainment System came out in 1986 to the mainstream. As a kid, I hated reading. But it was perfect because everything was text-based. I played games like Final Fantasy, which were complete text-based role-playing games that were played out stories. The language in it was more advanced. I learned to read that way. I hated picking up a book. Even to this day, sadly to admit, I'm not a huge fan of fiction books. I'll read nonfiction, but not a lot of fiction. Digital literacy, that's even more prevalent today. A lot of kids do read, but oftentimes it's just off Wikipedia, or it's stuff that they want to look up. They'll pull out Safari on their iPhone and read stuff up there. Digital is literacy here. So a little bit of personal research, just to make this not just research that we've done, but I actually tried some stuff out on my kids. So did she. Don't worry, not dangerous. Language arts. Started out with, we did a poetry unit. And for one of the assessments, I gave the kids the opportunity to either do it digitally or with a pencil. And we tried it both ways. I required everyone to do it digitally first. Put it on your blog. Gave them a set time and got them to do it. And then the next day, same time of day, got them to do it physical writing. And then I surveyed them. I figured out what did they like better. And it was not the computer. It was not all the time. About 11 out of my 19 kids liked the computer better, but it was harder to finish it in time. A lot of the kids liked the writing better because if they wanted to do a concrete poem, a poem that had a shape to it, or they wanted to turn the words around, they were able to with the writing. They weren't able to digitally. Now, I turned that around with actual writing, too. I gave them a pre-assessment for review on personal narratives, and I gave them options. I gave them a Google Doc that they could make a copy of and type into. I gave them an iPod Touch so they could physically record the answers when I gave them the questions, and I gave them a pencil and paper, and the standard way. I had 11 of them choose the iPod Touches, 3 or 4 of them choose the Google Doc, and the rest chose to write. And you know what? The results were pretty much what I expected them to be. They didn't change a whole lot. But they were engaged. I never had a quieter class in my life than when we did that activity. And they all had the ability to post all of that into their blog as well later, so there was no difference that way. They all knew that. So in the end, if you can differentiate it, but a lot of kids will still opt for a pencil because they like it more.
For me, at my last school, I was teaching MYP. And once you're into the high school crowd, they tend to know how they learn best. They tend to know what they need to do in order to succeed. So they have to have developmental workbooks. That's not an option. MYP dictates that. I gave them the option. I said it can either be digital or it can be traditional. And I had students going both ways. It was about a 50-50 split, but it wasn't always for the reasons that I expected. So I had a couple of kids who chose to go digital, not because they really liked typing and hated writing, but because they knew they were probably going to lose that developmental workbook at least 3 times that year, especially when it was due to be handed in. So they said, no way, I'm going digital, then it's online, and you can click on the link anytime, and I don't have to worry about losing it. It was an organizational thing for them. I had other students who were like, I hate the computer, I want to go traditional. They bought themselves a sketchbook. It was beautiful. Like, some of that stuff was absolutely gorgeous, what they were able to do with it, because they really personalized it. Okay? Now here in Hong Kong, I teach grade 4 and 5. Last week they had an assignment. I gave them the choice. You can either write it out and email it to me, or you can make it as a video and email me the link. your choice. And I had kids do both. The majority of them did choose still to write it out, but there were still those students who were like, you know what? I suck at writing. I'd rather tell it to you. So that's what they did.
Now, enough about us telling you about this stuff. We're actually going to get you guys to try this now. Some of you guys came in and got to get a weird look at the pencils. Yeah, I'm actually going to get you to try this firsthand. 1 minute with a pencil and paper. Produce as much as you can about a personal narrative, a story about your life. We're not going to share the content of it. So don't worry if you put anything in there that's, shaming.
Does not need to be school friendly.
No, whatever you need. Produce as much as you can in 1 minute.
Go.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sue.
Not this one. This one's traditional.
You will soon, don't worry.
We are not differentiating in this class.
That was much louder than that last time. Much more jarring. Okay, now someone just said, hey, we can't do this on my computer. Well, no, you can. This time I want you to do it again. 1 minute. You can continue the next one. You can do a new one. 1 minute to do it digitally.
Your app of choice.
Doesn't matter how you do it, but you have 1 minute to produce as much as you can.
Go.
Wait.
Sounds like my class. No, sir, wait.
One more minute. You want to make it really authentic? Don't touch type. Type the way your kids do. Hunt and peck.
Yeah, if you can try it. I've also heard that in my class a lot too. That was a minute. Now, bear in mind, when I do this with my personal narrative one with my kids, I give them a half hour. So we're shrinking it to a 30th of its real size. It's done.
Remember the 6 hours, 1 hour phase?
Yeah. We're going to continue on with your research too. We're going to jump into math in a moment. A few comments about math. There's two big differences in math. Math is turned conceptual in the primary elementary area, especially. I know it's turned that way in senior school, I believe, as well. We've gone from just, here's an equation, to, I don't care about your answer, I want to see your process. Conceptually understand the stuff. So, it's equations versus problems. A lot of you guys may know of something called Khan Academy. And if you don't, it's really good for substitution. But it's not anything higher than replacing the teacher's face in front of the classroom. Even its quizzes are very substitution-based. And explain everything I'll talk about in a little bit, but it seems to be one of the few ways, it's an app on the iPad, but a few ways you can actually show conceptual understanding digitally with math. So far, it's very easy for kids to use. But, here comes the test. 1 minute again. You have a problem. It's not too dissimilar to what I give to my grade 3s or grade 4 or grade 4 class. John has 4 apples. Each cost 30 cents. That second piece shouldn't be there. How much did John spend? And explain your thinking using a pencil first. This is
No
not
calculators.
no calculators. Yeah, but this is pencil only.
And to make it authentic, explain your work cost has more points to it than the actual answer.
But we don't give out letter grades anymore. one was a bit easier to cover in a minute. Similar problem. This time it's only digital. You cannot use a pencil and paper on this. John has 7 apples. Each cost 45 cents. How much did John spend? And explain your thinking. This time use your computer, any device you'd like. 1 minute. There it is. All right. Now
Okay.
this one's all her. This one's all her.
So you've got staff paper in the middle of your table. This activity, you need to write out a melody. Okay? Could be something original. Could be something you know really well. You may not have written music since you were in primary school. Yeah, so are most people. That's fine. Technically, I am too when you really start thinking about it.
We're not going to go karaoke when we're done,
Yeah.
so don't worry about that. But 1 minute to produce some piece of music on the staff paper that you have in
And
front of you.
just like my kids, put in your claps, put in your stems, put in your time signatures, all of that stuff. This is an assignment they really have to do, but they've got more than a minute.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can't remember, try and bullshit your way through it.
Like good idea.
this song.
Just put notes on paper. That's good.
I wouldn't do much better. All right.
Now, open up that Google Doc that you had before. Can't do it with iPads. Can only do it with the laptops, unfortunately. And Vex tab that you installed at the beginning. Okay, you're going to have 1 minute to compose your melody inside Vex tab. And I will warn you, it's not intuitive.
We'll explain the reason why we chose Vextab in a few minutes. Don't worry. Vextab. VEXTAB. All right. Well, these are all skills that our kids have. And this is why it's like, choose one.
But it's so sorry. Oh, they don't have to.
It's in it. Like, I thought it was
Oh.
No, Drive and everything will always push whatever.
Nope, that didn't.
I use Dr. Post.
Okay. Okay, so the point of that wasn't so we could correct you. We're not going to pick all this up and give you guys grades. The point of it was the process.
Which is good. I would have failed the math portion.
I would like to see what this looks like.
ask me. It's very often.
Just with your tables, just do a turn and talk. You know, what was easier? What was more difficult? You know, was it technological issues? Was it the pencil broke? Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I like this math, but that's also because if
Okay. So, what I can tell you, I do not use VexTab with my kids. That is an example of how technology doesn't always work the way we want it to. I've had kids use VexTab just to type in little tiny things into their developmental workbook, 6 notes, not entire compositions. There are far better apps out there, but all of those apps either demand money or copious amounts of personal information. We just didn't have time for that today.
No, those apps don't need to know who your first girlfriend was or boyfriend is. So now we want to kind of turn the perspective from the kids to us. Research, when you find out about how ed tech is adopted, you end up with this old bell curve thing, which is generally accepted as generally the way things go. We're going to ignore these initiators out here because oftentimes they're not educators. These are people who invented products and coders and stuff. They can be sometimes. But we're going to very quickly go over this. The innovators in your school are 2.5%. These are the people who love taking the risk, love inventing new things, love trying out brand new instructions. They take on the new territory before anybody else does. These are the folks who are not risk averse. They thrive off it, and they're willing to fail and get in trouble for it if they need to. But these are the folks who will often go against the grain, but they can start things. That follows up with early adopters. Beatles on Segway. 13.5% of the workforce. These are the change agents. These are the ones who they're starting to look like more of an average human being. They want to see it to believe it, so they want the innovators to do it, but they're willing to try it before all the bugs are worked out totally. They're willing to fail on it, but not nearly as willing, or they're not nearly as risk averse as the innovators. The early majority are where you get into the big chunks. The early majority would be 34%. A lot of the people here would be early majority. Seeing stuff tried, seeing it successful, bringing it back to the classroom, bit suspect. They don't mind a few mess-ups here and there, but they're willing to give it a shot. But they want to see solid proof of it working. And then you get the late majority, which don't like risks. But it's another huge chunk, it's 34%. They have a fear of not fitting in, so they'll often go with what everyone else is doing. They'll often go with the early majority, the innovators. They'll follow it once it's been figured out. But they've got the back end influencing them. They've got the back end kind of nagging at them, what are you using tech for? The back end are the laggards. I'm sure you guys have seen these people at your school. These people who only open their email once a day because they have to, and that's the only reason. They hate talking through email. They don't like using tech. They're very risk averse. They are worried, and they find a reason to turn against it. The most important chunk on this are those two middle bands, because they have the biggest influence. These are the folks who are trying stuff, and they're the most able to relate. The best example I can give very quickly of that is in the gym. There's a lot of folks in the gym who are in the gym a lot. They're obsessed over the gym. I'm a bit of a gym nut. Admittedly. But when I go to the gym, I'm not proud of guys like me in the gym. We go there. It's what our hobby is. I'm proud of the guy who's speed walking on the treadmill, and he's gotten up off the couch to get there, because he's the guy who's motivated, who's truly motivated to be there and trying to make a difference. That's your early majority and your late majority in the tech world. Those are the guy who got off the couch to get into the gym and to lead a better lifestyle. He's going to influence his friends who are also on the couch. That's your majority.
So what does this all mean? Well, we need to step back. Okay? Tech is not always the be-all and end-all. We've all had directors, governing boards, whatever, saying, we just spent millions on new computers, and you will use them. You know, that's not necessarily what we need to be doing. We do need to take a step back. Remember when PowerPoint came out? Do you remember how it would be like, oh, this slide can spin, this slide's going to flip, this one's going to have glitter on it. And there was no content or substance to those presentations. It was all about the whiz bang. So it's one of those things where we have to step back. We've got to say, okay, there's the whiz bang, what's the content?
There's nothing more interesting than an admin walking by a room with all the computers out, because they'll ignore it. Reality is, a lot of times you have computers out, you're just a block. It's drilling kill. A lot of times you'll see that. But hey, but you have the computers out, they're using the technology, they're using the stuff we spent the money on. They've got to be doing something good in there. It's not always the case.
Dissecting a frog with a laptop doesn't work so well.
No.
Exactly. Gets a little messy. Dribbling a basketball with a laptop in hand doesn't work so well.
Or for the fun one that I do in science, the Diet Coke and Mentos experiment. You search for that, you're going to find a bunch of frat boys, hurting each other with the bottles. It's really funny, but there's nothing better than watching your teacher soak themselves in Coke because they made a mistake, or actually doing it firsthand, or then giving it little tries. That stuff's way better. That's hands-on. It's right there in front of them. So the computer, that level of tech doesn't often matter.
Okay. Just because there's an app for it doesn't mean you need to use it.
So, the whole purpose of being here. There's a series of tech barometers. Basically, these are ways to figure out whether something's actually useful or not, whether the technology available to you is actually valuable.
And we have this on paper, so you can take it with you.
Yeah. There's two others that were developed by the Google Education Training community, and they're very heavy, and they're like rubrics. So we'll give, if you want both, we can give, well, there's three of them actually. There's two of the heavy rubric ones, and there's ours, which is a simple one-pager. I'm not saying ours is better. I'm just saying there's a bit more to say.
It's differentiated.
Yeah. So we've asked a series of simple questions. What is the purpose of the app, the site, the game, the technology? Will this software help to actually pursue the learning goals you need in the classroom? If you have to cover an outcome, is this actually going to help it? And does it substitute the current tool without a functional change? In other words, what's the engagement level? Does it add extra value to what you're doing? Well, how long will your students be engaged? I know a ton of apps, math in particular, that gets the kids engaged for about a class. And then after that, they get bored. And those are often the drill and kill apps, the straight drill and kill stuff. A lot of kids can do it for a while, but a lot of kids just disengage from them.
You really want to look for the apps, the programs that are going to engage them for more than one lesson. You want the ones where they're going to say, sir, can we play this today? Can we be doing this? It's that whole thing. Right now, I've got an issue with my grade 5 boys coming to my music class with books. And they're reading during my class. What are they reading? They're reading about Minecraft. They're reading the latest strategy books for Minecraft, which is absolutely awesome. And I apologize every time I ask them to put their books away, because I don't want to say you can't read and you shouldn't be doing this. But it's one of those things where clearly they're engaged in that. So can I find a way to use Minecraft in my lesson? Find something that's going to engage them, to spark their interest, to keep them going for more than 15 minutes, 30 minutes.
Admittedly, my generation, that was Nintendo Power Magazine. If anyone remembers that one. I've read that like crazy. The next questions that we have for it. Does the tech act as a tool substitute and a functional improvement? In other words, does it extend their learning? Does it go beyond what you could have just replaced the whiteboard with? Does it give them extra things to do, ask them extra questions? Does it cause them to think deeper? And does it allow for a significant and engaging task redesign? What we mean by that is kind of stimulate creativity, kind of stimulate inquiry. Can that tool ask kids questions, or can it cause them to ask more questions, deeper questions? Can it engage them 10 times the amount that a straight up and easy to produce activity could? The idea of moonshot thinking is a very Google term. It's the idea that can you shoot for the moon? Can your thinking cause you to shoot for the moon? And the last one, well, not one of the last ones. Does the tool allow for new, previously unheard of tasks? If you've been to SAMR, it's hard to figure these out, but once you do, they're gold. And we'll clarify one thing about these. It's not one tool. If you're at that kind of level, you're working with 2 or 3 different things together. And that makes more sense as we go on. But the biggest question on this is, how easy is it? This is the time issue.
We've all got a finite amount of time. It's going to take a whole bunch of time to implement it in your lesson. You need to factor that in. Is it really worth it?
Yeah, what we've got up here is called the SAMR wheel. This is readily available online. There's a million. I actually asked Dr. Pointier about this when I saw him, because I'd seen this a bunch of times. This is the SAMR model around the outside, and it's new blooms on the inside. And it shows various apps that can work with certain levels of the SAMR model. Dr. Pointier said, if you're going to show this, clarify one huge point. Just because one of these is sitting in redefinition doesn't mean one of these does redefinition. It means it can add to the redefinition. It can try and get you to the redefinition.
So, to boil it down, when should you use it? When should you not use it? Well, if you're going to have challenges in implementing, don't use it. Okay, if it's really difficult to implement, then don't go down that road. That's too much frustration. If it breaks school policy, you really want to think twice. There are schools that follow the American COPA. There are schools that follow the under 13 stuff. There are schools that just say no social media. If it breaks your school rules, maybe you want to find something different to do. Unless you've got all of that power and you can be going, oh, I'm sorry, I won't do it next time. I don't know many teachers with that power.
Anyone married to an admin?
Yeah. Oops, my bad. If it's not a natural fit to your unit, just because you've got it doesn't mean you need to use it. Just because your school has spent umpteen hundreds of dollars downloading these apps, if it doesn't fit in your unit, then you're not going to be engaged. Your kids aren't going to be engaged. It makes no difference. It's not going to help them. And finally, the engagement of the students. If you say, okay, guys, take out whatever, and they're like, oh, start thinking, okay, are they just being normal kids, or is this actually not something that they're engaged in? Have a balance. That is one of the things that the research showed. The kids want the balance too. They don't always want to be in front of a screen. They want to be able to choose the right tool for the job. So you can say, okay, you can do this through pencil or you can do this digitally. They want to use the right tool for the job. They don't want to just be told you have to be doing this all the time. Now, when do you want to use it? Well, if it fits in with your unit nicely, go for it, assuming it doesn't break school policy. If your team has the drive to try it, most of us work with more than one teacher on our team. So if your whole team is willing to implement it, if your whole team is willing to put in that extra time and effort, run with it. If it furthers your school's goals, all of us go through accreditation. All of us have to have, our school is going to be blah, 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 blah. If it's going to be something that furthers your school goals, try it out. Maybe you can accomplish that goal faster. If nothing else, you look good with the admin. You're like, yeah, see that school goal? Yeah, I was doing that in my classroom today. And if it engages your students, play Minecraft. Okay? Play Zelda. Go introduce them to classic games. There's all sorts out there.
I've blown my kids away a few different times. We had a very brief conversation. I showed them a picture of an old Nintendo, and they thought it was a remote control of some nature. They had no idea what it was. But I was showing them a picture of a rotary phone. And I love the comments after that. I saw that in the museum once, sir. And my dad has one of those in storage, I think. Isn't that the one where, like, there's ticking noises? I love my kids. I was like, no, I was there for that. This next slide is a bit of an ADD person's nightmare, but it does work. So the barometer in use, any one of these tools, and we can say this because any one of these tools we have tried them, with the exception of a few. But you can apply the barometer to any of these very easily. I'll use some of the ones that I use fairly regularly or have reasonably failed on me at one point. Blogger, which is in the top right, is a very successful tool to use if you're looking for a very, very simple e-portfolio. And it can be worked in on a modification and redefinition phase by allowing it to be a visual display of learning. It can be one aspect that leads you to that. Versus something like Nearpod. Nearpod basically runs a computer as a master and iPads as slaves to a lesson you want to run. It's a lot of substitution. It's a lot of work to pull off. It's better for high school because you can run that same lesson 8 or 9 times. For an elementary class, the 40 minutes it takes to run the lesson, it's often not worth it. Now, so all of these you can apply the barometer to. You can apply the barometer to just about anything. The hidden gems in this are the notebook and the pencil.
Which when I put those in, Andrew's like, what app is the pencil one?
I did.
And I was like,
actually.
a pencil.
I was like, oh, yes, it's good. I'll put that in there.
Yeah. Because it is a technology, and we often forget that because we're so used to it.
If anyone's curious about any of these apps, if they haven't used it, I'll be straightforward. But if any of us have used them, I'll let you know how it can be used. So, in a nutshell, what are you taking away? What we just talked to you about, the physical paper if you want it, which we can hand out in a few minutes, which is the tech barometer. We can help you out. If you need help, you can email us, and we will gladly help you out. And so this is the best way to get in touch with us. For Mandy, if you're tweeting, it's @mhollingshead, and that's her work email address. And for myself, I have 2 Twitter accounts because I use them for 2 different reasons. If you want to follow what my class is doing, my parents love this. It's one of my communication tools with my parents. I tweet out to my parents every day with pictures of what we're doing. That's Mr. Ray Harney. If you want to find out what I'm doing on the professional side of things, it's Andrew G. Harney. And that's my work email address.
And we would love to have your feedback on this presentation. So if you don't mind going to that link, it is a 09, not an 09. And hands up if you want paper barometers.
If you want to take away a paper barometer, yeah, I'll give out the more complex one.
Here, I'm going to do this teacher stuff. Take one and pass the rest.
If you want one of these ones, these are other barometers. Let me know.
Do you have a site where I can see
We-
research that informs your presentation?
We have a massive Google folder that has all of our research on it.
If you send us an email, I can send you a PDF of the presentation.
Okay.
And the research, let me figure out if we're allowed to share all the research
I don't know
first.
how much of the research we could share because a lot of it was paid for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basic, but I can give you, what I can do is I can give you a bibliography. So you can go and look at it.
Okay.
That way I'm not, pardon?
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
no.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, so that's here.
It's all good.
For me, no. The driving force for me was the fact that as a music teacher, I was in a class and it's one of those things where I had administrators going, yeah, we've got all this tech, you really need to be using it. And it's like, have you ever tried to use a computer while playing a saxophone? Like it just doesn't work. So, and I know same thing in the visual art department where it was like, you guys should be doing more on the computers. It's like, sure, I'll get up those computers with all of those pots of paint. So it was one of those things for me. It's been that feeling of there's got to be something better, something's missing. And it kind of started as a personal journey, and then we discussed doing this presentation. Actually, we didn't think that this was the presentation we were going to be doing.
No.
We just kind of threw it in there, going, "Yeah, this could be kind of cool." And then they emailed us, said, "Yeah, you're doing it," and we're just like, "Oh, now we need to do some serious research."
No, and I'd love to say that it ended up being a bit half, but in the end, it's actually informed my research in trying to get stuff from my admin. By doing this research, I've actually given them tangible evidence of going, hey, here's why we need to haul out those iPads that no one's using that are sitting in the corner of the room that are still not smudged by fingerprints. Yeah, it's pretty interesting in that way, how applying tech barometer allows evidence to use something. It rarely gives you a tangible way of doing it. Another.
It saves money too, because instead of buying the thing and then figuring out how to string it together around, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things where, as a teacher, if somebody says, like, oh, I want you to start using more tech stuff, well, where do you go to find all that out? So a lot of it, I've downloaded so many apps, I've paid for a lot of apps, that ultimately I don't end up using with my classes. Because it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it looked cool in the description, and the screenshots look like what I want, but when I actually started using it, when I actually
Better to
applied
buy
the
one
barometer,
than 25.
well, yeah.
And that's what we ran into. There was an app that a lot of teachers in my school use called Confer. You guys have ever heard of this app? It's a reasonably expensive app, actually, about $12, $13. But for talking to kids, for getting strengths and weaknesses out, it's worth every penny of it. Because it keeps track of all of your kids' records for dating. You can take pictures of it while you're talking. It's a brilliant app. But it was one teacher a couple of years back in grade 3 that tried it out. And now everyone puts it on their own personal phones or personal iPads, brings them into work, and we all use it. Yeah, it's basically to get formative records, anecdotal records about your kids. You do it digitally. And when you input one strength, it remembers that strength. So if another kid has that strength, you just simply click on it. I don't want to go over what Confer, full
You're saying sometimes something expensive is worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it is. And, it's one of those things. There is that saying of you get what you pay for. Sometimes the more expensive apps do a better job than the cheaper apps
Yeah.
because they've got the support behind it. Sometimes.
Yeah. But then there's other ones, like, there was one, can you put 2 or 3 slides back, man, into the app stuff? Confusing as it is. This one right here, Grammaropolis. Fantastic app for drill and kill on English-based grammar, but it doesn't do much. Versus Erasma, which is free. And Erasma is augmented reality, and that's really cool, and it gets the kids engaged, and I've successfully used it a couple of times. Or Explain Everything, which costs $2, and it's one of the few apps that can actually demonstrate math learning and directly uploads into Google Drive. Explain Everything. It is brilliant. Sometimes the expensive apps do exactly what you need them to do. Like Grammaropolis' purpose is drill and kill. It does it. It does it really well. We didn't want to keep it just at the elementary level. I've seen units where Minecraft has been used. About 2 years ago when I came here, I saw.
If you Google just Minecraft for education, you come up with so many.
Other student that did ancient Rome.
Yeah.
Minecraft world does this project. It was really
And a former coworker of mine, a friend of mine, Eric Walker, he through Minecraft created the I think it's called the World of Humanities, and it walks you through the various history worlds through Minecraft. Brilliant. Civ I put up there because I've seen it used as gamified education in humanities in middle school, high school level. And SimCity, same way. I'd love to find a basic version for the kids, but I haven't been able to. But middle school, high school, it's brilliant for geology. It's brilliant for cityscaping. It's brilliant for social studies projects, stuff like that. And the other one I tossed up here, which is quiet, those are Lego Mindstorms, and that's design thinking. Guy at my school, Brian Smith, is an absolute genius at that sort of stuff. But the barometer can still be applied to it. Just because it's a physical product, like a 3D printer, apply the barometer to it. See if it works. Because sometimes if your school is about thinking of investing in a 3D printer, they're cool. sometimes you can just make the stuff that 3D printer makes. Depends on what you want to do with it.
have 3D printer in my school, and we use the proper software, and we use Google SketchUp for designing, and we just normally export it into SD file and we print it. So is there any app which can help with 3D printer?
I'm not super familiar with it. If you email me, I can shoot you off to Brian,
Okay.
and he'll know everything about that.
All right.
My focus and my knowledge base is more on the like the web-based learning stuff. Brian knows all about that sort of stuff, so he definitely knows an answer. Yeah. This one here?
Yeah.
That's Erasmus. That's augmented reality, and that's I could easily talk about that for an hour. We did a full augmented art gallery with it, and yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, very interactive. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Let me see. How we good? What time is the? We have 8 minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Cool. Thank you guys for coming. I'm really sorry the computer shut down on you there. Oh.